Melanated family, how's everybody doing on this good Sunday? This is your brother Harrison. Brand new episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. I'm doing them back to back today, y'all. You know what I mean? Yesterday, I was on with my brother JDK, the Underboss, who is an entrepreneur and recording artist here from the area I live in. I was able to speak to that brother yesterday, and he dropped some powerful game on the family. So if you haven't done so already, go to the Melanated Convo on YouTube, or you can go to my personal Facebook page, which is Harrison Anderson, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all these different places you can catch either the visual or the audio of me and my brother JDK. We went in yesterday. Been my friend for 20-something years, but besides, like, my friendships don't get you on my show type of environment. Like, that's a creative brother who have been able to create a business for himself coming from the areas that we come from. You know what I mean? Like, that's, I value people who can come from particular environments and turn that thing around completely. You see what I'm saying? That's what all this is about. Also, so go check the interview out with my brother JDK if you haven't done so already. Also, please, family, this Tuesday, August 30th, 6:30 p.m. I'm going to be on my sister Felicia K's talk show. The First Lady Point of View talk show is the name of the show. This coming up Tuesday. If you are someone who has Xfinity Comcast, you'll turn to channel 1718. If you're someone who has AT&T Uverse, you'll turn it on channel 14, I think it is. But if you just dealing with the Fire Stick, you got the Amazon Fire Stick, you're doing the Apple TV, you're doing the Roku, all these different places you can find the show, and it's called The First Lady Point of View. It's the talk show. And I said this yesterday on speaking with my brother JDK, but it's worth saying again. I'm proud of this sister. She had a radio show for a really long time. She's been grinding. Now she on TV. She elevating, right? Like, the watching people take steps forward. I take pride in that because sometimes it's really difficult to take steps forward. It's really difficult to position yourself the way you want to, depending on whatever your creative endeavor is. So I appreciate that, sister. Tune in this Tuesday, 6:30 p.m., your brother Harrison's first television appearance. You feel me? I'm excited. You know what I mean? But I'm ready, though. See, that's the point. Now, on my show today, I've had every type of interesting melanated person on my show, in my opinion, right? And the Melanated Convo is an interesting conversation with all walks of life from people in our community, but we're going a little deeper, though. I'm always gonna go a little bit deeper. I'm not gonna focus on salacious shit. I'm not gonna focus on gossip. It's all about healing. It's all about learning. It's all about educating. But for the first time on the show today, this is a different type of artist I got on the show today, right? Because look, we Black in America, man. When we think of somebody saying something to you, giving you some words that make you feel like, oh, damn, I gotta rethink something. I gotta recalibrate something. I gotta figure something out. Typically, that comes from hip hop, right? In the normal populace, when we think of that type of spoken word, we're thinking about hip hop. We're thinking about that message that received. But see, that's not it. In our community, since the late 1700s, we've had individuals who've used a different type of spoken word to get their point across. And this creates value in our community just like everything else does. You see what I'm saying? So on my show today, I'm happy to have a brother, right, who created a company called Coon the Poet LLC, where basically it's an edutainment and consulting company that he established in 2017. This brother is a spoken word artist. This brother is a motivational speaker. This brother is a mentor to the youth. You feel me? One of the goals of the company is inspiring, educating, and opening minds and healing through poetry and spoken word. So I want the Melanated family to welcome my brother Chris Coon, aka Coon the Poet, to the Melanated Convo. How you doing today, brother?
Peace, family. Peace, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the heart put in the introduction, the time. I don't know if you're just that professional and just that good at what you do, or if you just care that much, man. But these days, it feels good to not have to reintroduce myself, to not have to explain too much, because, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna gonna take the shade away and I'm gonna open my eyes up and I'm gonna let folks in to my eyes. But it feels good to be able to, at this point in time, get introductions that kind of do the job. So all I have to do is show up and just show my heart. I don't have to explain. I don't gotta advocate for self so much. I don't gotta fight on my behalf. I don't have to fight those unnecessary battles. So I appreciate you, King.
It's all about creating. It's all about creating the allyship, my guy. Because, like I told you when we talked on the phone, I'm watching people like me getting on my platform. I'm evolving to a point where I want to be as valuable as I can to our community, and I watch people and I see the grind and the struggle in the day to day. I see what you do, bro. So I have to present it to you the right way, because me doing what I do, people want to know it or not. This is spoken word. See, so we need to get to the root of the importance of dialogue. It's like the conversation, when had right, will change your life. And that's all that's happening. Whether it's your teacher, whether it's your mama, whether it's the poet, whether it's the hip hop artist, when you hear them words said the right way, ain't nothing you can do but bow down to what's going on inside you. Feel me? And you, because I'm 42 years old. So we come from the deaf comedy, the deaf poetry jam, and these type of as a young person, I wasn't going to the poetry opening nights and stuff, but I seen that type of platform on TV. And all of us in our community, when you listen to it, you can hear the value in it. You can hear the thought and the time it takes and all that. You know what I mean? So I wanted to make sure I introduced you to my audience the correct way. So for everybody that don't know, Coon, tell me real quickly, bro. Like, where are you from? Where were you raised as a child?
Yeah, so I originally, so I was born military base, East Coast, but I was raised in this place. Yeah, we myself and my collective like to recoin and revamp as the city of Kings, Sacramento, California, where my mother's side of the family has been since the late 1940s. And so I do take a lot of pride in the soil of Sacramento, California. I did come back, like I said, military base as a baby. And then as a baby, we did that long 3,000-mile drive back here where my mother was raised and is from, her family is from. And I've been raised here ever since. Ever since then. And so I came up South Sac. To be honest, it was one of my young bros, one of my young homies who coined South Sac, Iraq. And so my family has been pretty much any neighborhood that you can name where there is Black community. We are there. We reside there. So I don't. At this point in time, when folks like, yo, where you from? Yeah, I was raised in South Sac. Went to Valley High School. Graduated with got my diploma from William David Continuation School. Also went to a few other schools, all South area, and of course, kind of moving around all different neighborhoods in South Sac. But there is Valley High area was where I spent a lot of time, but then also Glen Elders is where a lot of my family is from. Grandma's house is at, so you know how that goes. The grandma house, that's where the Thanksgivings are taking place. That's where a lot of the teachings. That's where a lot of the codes, if you will, respect codes and lack thereof respect codes.
Definitely.
You know, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, South Sacramento.
Definitely, and that's when you mentioned to me that you kind of moved around a little bit and had to endure different neighborhoods in our city. And just like I told JDK yesterday, I interview people from all over the country, and where you from don't matter to me, but I'm prideful in being from my city. You know what I mean? I'm not from the Bay Area. I'm from Sacramento, California. You see what I'm saying? So, and all of the differences that come with that, good or bad, but what you are exuding and what JDK has exuded as well, is like, it's happening the same everywhere. And sometimes when you get to like ingratiate yourself in different environments where people are, maybe they claim that, but it helps your personality, and it helps you grow as a person when you get to be in all these different environments. So that's why I was thinking when you said military brat, because see, I grew up in the South Side as well, but I went to 3 schools my whole life. Like, this is real shit. I went to Bowling Green, Fernbake, and Burbank. Boom.
Sure.
Never a different school. Never had to live. You know, what was one side of the South? You see, because now my family, and this is a funny story real quick. My family has a business in Oak Park, right? So I'm, as a kid, because of a lot of different things that was going on, because of like affiliations on my family's part, I never went to Oak Park. There were streets in Oak Park, bro, that I'd never been to. So now as my family owns a business in the community, I'm turning down streets and I'm like, damn, I've been here 42 years. Like, all my years, I ain't never been over here because, you know, as Black people, it can be a little tribal at times. You know what I mean?
Segregated within, you know, civilly within our own race, right? We draw lines, and a lot of that is really based on the redlining that was done back in the day, which is why, like, and I share often with the youngsters that I work with, like, yo, it's important to know your history of this place that you're claiming and that you're so proud of, and you have so much pride in. I understand that, like, there was only really 2 neighborhoods you can be in back in the day if you were Black in Sacramento.
We gotta see.
And then the other neighborhoods all stem from those. And so, yes, we are all family for real. Like, because everybody mixed mingle with each other. So one of those neighborhoods was Oak Park, right? Historically, we're talking 40s and 50s, where my family got here in the late 40s. They first place they came was Oak Park. If you were in the north area, you were in El Paso Heights. And you can see the historical residuals. Right, you can see a little bit more structure, more elders, more grandma's houses, those kind of things. Right, you can see even like some of the it's deeper, you know, tribal. Right, more gangs, more folks, more pride because of the history. Much like places like Oakland, there's a lot of history in Oakland, and so understanding, like, but a part of the setup was segregating within our culture, like separating us, right? And then busting it down by classism and you know, all that kind of, you know, the American dream. You know,
that's refreshing to hear you go there, brother, because I just did a show a few days ago, and just like you just mentioned, I say certain things ad nauseum because I want you to get it, and words are spells. So yeah, I'm gonna say this shit 1,000 times you can get it. You know what I mean? Hey man, look, the ghettos in America, complete creations.
Yep.
Complete creation. So you can get mad at the inhibited who show certain signs of certain things, and now they're festering. But this is an autopilot type system in 2022. Wow. This thing was set up a long time ago. My wife, her father, like, she grew up in the 29th Street area, right? So I had a conversation with that brother, rest his soul, before he passed away, and he hit me to game where basically he was like, I live in the 29th Street area because I wanted to move to Elk Grove. I wanted to move to Green Haven. I couldn't. See, so me knowing history, Chris, I was baffled because I was like, okay, I've been reading about this for some years now, but to hear an individual say, no, that was my actual experience. I had to live in this area. So, you know, I'm big on history too, bro, just so I think it creates the proper perspective. And then when you keep digging, then you get the love from it. Then you get to holding yourself accountable. Then it becomes like, then it translates into everything you do. So it is a process, bro. Now talk to me about this real quick, because you mentioned your mom. So military, right? Y'all came to Sacramento.
Like, what military, Army.
Pops was military. So growing up, did you grow up with your pops?
So that's the interesting part. And so a lot of my story derives from a lot of the trauma, to be honest with you. And I say trauma of the time period. I was born in '89, right? And so affectionately kind of coined a phrase with a lot of my peers born in '89 as earthquake babies. We're earthquake babies. Anything under earthquake, they're aftershocks. And so and so what that means to me really is like 1989 was the year of the San Francisco earthquake. But we also know in that shaking, breaking, and cracking was also what we know as the crack epidemic, right? So 80s, and in the late 80s, all of us born was affected some way, shape, or form. by the crack epidemic. So myself, my pops was military, army, stationed at what we know as, if you're from Sacramento, from the South area, as Countrywood Village apartment complex, now known as Providence Place apartment complex off of Mac Road. That's where, and it's crazy. People still get like, wait, for real? That's where they used to house a lot of the army soldiers. And so my pops, the first place they stationed him was, when he came to Sacramento, was Countrywood Village. That was military housing, military apartments, if you will. There was a club right across the street. That was a club that all the soldiers would go to. That's where my mom and pops would be on a Saturday. Saturday love is where they dance, blah blah blah. It sounds like a beautiful love story, and there's parts of it that really is. And then, like I said, crack epidemic, pops. No shade on my dad. We have our strange relationship, but it's not estranged in the sense of I don't know him. I know him well as I took time to get to know him and journey to learn myself. And learning like, inside my blood is a lot of addictive. It's an addictive trait, and so because of that, that is why we endured a lot as kids growing up. Even the pieces where mom, who my grandfather thought she would grow to be a librarian, because she was the sister of all the 5 kids. She was the one quiet, graduated second of her class from Hiram Johnson. And Glen Elders, still to this day, only ones that know her from the neighborhood, all the OGs that know her from the neighborhood, only barely know her through her sisters and brothers, not really her. And so I'm Sharon's son, but they like, yeah, I remember something like that. They had a sister, right? She was kind of quiet. So that was mom. She did a good job of kind of covering up a lot, not covering up, but keeping us away from a lot of the deep impacts of it, because she wasn't in the lifestyle, but she fell in love with somebody who was, and that caused for us to be affected without realizing what we're being affected by. And so pops actually ended up leaving when I was 3 years old. And so when he left at 3 years old, that probably was my first shift in my first direct trauma, other than the stuff that was happening when I was 2 and 3 around me, right? Like just, that addictive behavior kind of stuff. But my pops was my favorite person and my superhero, and was the one who taught me how to be tough and strong, and teaching us martial arts when I was 2 years old, and teaching me to never, how, in his words, not to be a punk, right? Don't let nobody punk you. He's military cat. So that macho, hoo. But as a kid, and even like things like how to walk across the street, how to snap, how to whistle, how to small things. And so I got those things at an early age, 2 years old, 1, 2 years old, learning things that I learned later. A lot of my peers didn't get those foundational things. Then I got to experience with a single household with, 2 boys, me and my brother 2.5 years apart. And, my mother struggling and sacrificing and, as a single mother. And then he came back at 7 years old, when I was 7 years old.
Oh, so your pops came back. So from like 3 to 7, he wasn't there. And then at 7, he came back. Interesting. Okay. So from then, was he in your life and he became a young adult, or how did that play out?
And then when he came back, and I'm just in a transparent, I actually have a book I'm working on called Transparent Me, which is short stories of everything, right? As I, part of my healing process as well, and just like understanding and being able to not judge nothing as I look at it, right? Taking that mindfulness philosophy and really just looking at things and like, oh, okay, so that's why. All right, I get it. I understand it. I accept it. Now I release it. But transparent me, right? Me being as transparent as possible. When Pops came back, he brought a lot of his demons with him. A lot of his, and I didn't know what, excuse my language, but I didn't know what the hell. Me and my brother didn't know what the hell. Like, we were so excited to have our daddy back because we thought she made him go. Our mom made him go because she allowed us to think that. When he came back with this, had battled all the way his own, that monkey, on his shoulder, on his back, and plus also having 2 other sons while he was gone. But then coming back, my mother forgiving heart, accepting him back. And so when he came back, though, it was a lot of, and I just started kind of like unveiling a lot of these layers, a lot of abuse, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. And I didn't know until I was 25, traveling in the place that he went, right to the East Coast, spending time with his side of the family, that he was battling a lot of guilt, and it was me that was haunting him in his dreams as a child, begging him not to leave me, right? Like blaming him for leaving. So when he came back abusive, to be all the way real. I just got to the place where I started sharing that. A lot of people didn't know that. But that's also what sculpted me and shaped me and made me strong enough to endure. And then at a certain age, about 14, I'm like, hey, no more of that. As I started, getting up size, getting up strength. And that's also around the time where I started really taking my writing seriously as well. What Pops did that to this day, I salute him for it, thank him for it, was this love and passion for writing and this talent, this gift.
Wait, was your papa a writer?
This is my father's dream that I carry. That became my, my dream. And I love it. And I carry it. That's another reason why I also move forward in my last name, his last name, his father's last name, and then his father's last, and then my great grandfather's last name, who refused to change the spelling of his last name like his cousin, because he said, I'm not gonna hold my head down in shame. If it was good enough for my daddy, it's good enough for me. You see them kids? Pointed to my grandfather and my great uncle, who great uncle passed as Reverend Coon. My grandfather is known as Dr. Coon. He said, kids gonna put something in front of their name, bring it some respect. And so, long story short, like my dad, when he introduced himself to my mother's father, gave his first and middle name because he didn't feel like having to have the conversation about his last name and being judged. Which is why that's another part, like, I'm going to break that chain for him. Like, every time you get last name first with me, period. And you're going to respect me. And if you don't respect it, if you don't want to call me that, all right, that's cool, but you don't have to call me. Like, and I say that respectfully, but I also say it very like, hey, bro, you're not going to keep, especially now at 33, right? I always had in my teenage years, I was real short, but now it's like, you're not going to really keep cutting off and breaking off pieces of me to make yourself comfortable, and taking the pieces of me that you want and the pieces of me that you like, and then discarding the rest. I'm not going to allow you to do it with me. I don't care who you are. That goes for
Well, let me ask you a question real quick, Chris. Let me ask you a question. So when you say your last name, are we talking about, because when I see your name, being a history buff that I am, right? When we see Coon, we get to like, whoa, what we talking about? You know what I mean? So are you referencing the fact that your family had to deal with that, and they had to look, and they had to deal with somebody seeing that, and you have to explain it and have to, but I like the attitude that your family took. Like, nah, you have to own who you are. You know what I mean?
Very much.
I appreciate that.
Yep. I didn't learn that journey. I didn't learn that part of the story until she's been coming up a lot lately. That's how I know she's been close by. My great aunt, rest in peace, Shirley King Coon, who hyphenated. But she loved her family. She loved her maiden name. She loved it so much. She went and did more research, and built a family tree DVD and a whole thing. And she was the one who called me when I was 15 years old. In the hospital fighting for my life, and she was the one who was the vessel that poured into me about who I was. Like I said, I wasn't raised with pop side, and so like he only gave it to me bare minimum. But my auntie, and so for as long as I didn't like the way my name sounded and how kids made fun of it, because it can be raccoon, cocoon, and all the other things, and kids always giggle when the teacher would call my name in class, right? So, but Aunt Shirley was like, baby, your name is so powerful. Everybody who carries your name and carries your blood, they brought respect to it. Like, let me tell you about my granddad. Let me tell you about my mama. Let me tell you who chose to carry it. She didn't play no games about her name. Let me tell you about my daddy. Oh, I love my daddy so much. And And then she started sending me pictures and then DVDs where I can really like tap in. And I felt connected. And that is the energy that you feel when you see me confidently. Because the reality is, my name is no connection to the word. That's other people's, right? And that's the first thing they think, but that's their trauma. That has nothing to do with our family. Our family has always built respect for it because they had to. They had no choice. And they always had to have some, always had some time.
Definitely, bro. And I think, but so seeing that the name is what it is, I appreciate your family kind of educating you on that. But I think what happened to you, though, regardless of like a historical reference to your name or a coincidental, all of our ancestors, when I hear you talk, I'm hearing the ancestors pour into you. I'm hearing the people before you saying, let me give you the history, because that's being stolen fucking Africans. We all need somebody older to say, no, let me lay out the beauty. If there was some, let me lay out the beauty of the people that came from your last name, because everything is so broken up. Everything is so, we got some of us got last names based on the slave masters who owned us. It's the history of Black families. When I see people who like are steep in the history of how they got to this country and how they came to the city they live in, I always see a pride in their face. Knowing where you come from, knowing what year y'all got here, knowing what great-great-grandpa was doing, this is powerful. And really, it can't do nothing but empower you. You know what I mean? So I appreciate your family doing that for you, bro.
Oh, man, it's all good, man. They hear you and they salute
definitely,
you back.
Definitely. Now, so because you mentioned going through everything with your pops. Well, no. First thing, wait. So you mentioned something about 15 fighting for your life. Do you want to talk about that? What were you referencing?
I'm an open book, man. And a lot of for those, if you want deeper details, I actually have a piece and a poem, and I have a few interviews on YouTube talking about it in deep detail. There's articles, I'm sure. I have a poem, which is like my signature poem titled Anniversary, that I wrote a part of my healing process from 15 to about 17 to 18. It took me about 3 years. Each year, I would write a new verse. And so, explaining the story. And so, in a nutshell, I was shot 3 times walking home from school. And, and almost lost my life, was paralyzed for a day. And then I ended up getting movement in my feet that night in the hospital. Bullet hit my spine, ricocheted, hit my right lung. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. Is like I used to, and a lot of us believe that our story starts with our trauma. And I used to say that's my story, but that's not just my story. That was just a part that let me know that my life was worth living and that my life meant something because I still had a fight. I still had a second chance, another opportunity. And so, but that's not where the story starts. It was the part that allowed me to go back and dig and find out really who I was, and whose I was, and why I was, and what was the purpose what was the purpose I was meant to fulfill.
Okay, so damn, because that man, that
not to be all heavy.
No. Let's see, that's what we're here for, my brother. Because my brother was a 16-year-old basketball superstar headed to college with ties to his neighborhood, and he went to a party one night and he got shot. And I had to watch my brother learn how to walk again.
Yeah,
like this is real. So when I hear you say that, I can relate to a teenager dealing with that type of trauma, because it's not normal. That's not something teenagers have to go through. So you mentioned, you mentioned how you were able to kind of learn some things from that and gain some perspective from that. But at the time, do you recall how you were feeling? Like, was it regret for something? Was it just completely down on yourself? Like, how do you compartmentalize being in that position where you could almost have lost your life? You know what I mean?
Well, I think the thing was like a lot of props I give to my mother, because from the time that I opened my eyes, she was like bringing God into the hospital room, right? My family, like, there was a lot of prayers and there was a lot of teaching of like, yo, pray and ask God to heal you. Pray to ask him to heal you quickly. And so really like my spiritual relationship was built in that hospital. Like I saw things happening. I was in the hospital for 10 days, shot in my spine and my lung. Um, and then the second two bullets went straight through. That first one did all the damage. But 10 days in the hospital is not for the kind of injuries I had. That's not common. I didn't know that. But I also was not trying to stay in the hospital because everybody I knew who had been shot didn't make it staying in the hospital too long. And so immediately when I opened my eyes a little bit, although I couldn't see because of the medication and all that, and I couldn't talk because of the tubes, I was like, and they put a pencil in my hand and a piece of paper. I was like, all right, I'm ready to go home. Take me home now. And so it was that kind of push, resilience, and fight, I believe, is what like allowed me to continue to live. But the main reason why, and I'll be honest, because I was not the man you see today. I was a boy with low self-esteem. I was a boy who did not love myself. I was a boy who did not feel loved. I didn't feel like, I always felt attacked and victimized. And I always felt like everybody was out to get me. And to be all the way, keep it 1,000, for the most part, there was a lot of people that was. And it wasn't because I was an easy target. It was because I was a tough target. Because of my size, because of my appearance. And I just, like, a lot of times I wanted to be left alone. Like, leave me alone. And so going through, like, processing all that in the hospital, like, feeling low until I saw my family, especially my immediate, show up for me. Until I saw classmates, like, writing me. I was known for writing poems and poetry in class. Like I said, my dad introduced me to that when I was 7 years old. And so freshman year of high school at Valley High School, shout out to Miss Harlan, Miss Marla Harlan. She's probably gonna watch this video because she's on my Facebook religiously and relentlessly. She is she is a great supporter, always have been. And she used to every Friday would have the class or would have me recite a poem to end out the week. And then she had the class put together a poem while I was in the house. When that happened, they all wrote a poem and she packaged it in a little booklet, little chapbook, and like reading all their poems and all the get well and get better and you're the strongest one I know and you're tough and you can do this and you 50 Cent, all this kind of stuff. It empowered me when I'm like, yo, there's people that love me.
That's dope,
and
bro.
so to be honest with you, it was love that I felt. And then so I always was a dreamer, a storyteller, and just like although in a, low self-esteem, which a lot of people don't know that, but like that kid with low self-esteem was still optimistic because I always rooted for a superhero in every story, right? Like, and so I always believed that one day the hero would win, right? I would write little stories about myself with a cape and being a hero and all that kind of stuff and act it out with my toys sometimes or act it out in the mirror. And then when I was in a hospital, not being able to really move my legs or being able to move too much because of all the tubes, I remember watching the TV and then me creating the method and the tool of I'm going to treat myself in my life like I'm on TV, like I'm in a movie, and I'm going to root for myself as if I were rooting for the main character, right? The protagonist and the hero. And I did that for like the whole time in the hospital. And I would not just root, but I would also, so the part is every hero in every great movie story always going to have the moments when they almost where they lose or they almost die or their low point, their death and their rebirth, right? Every hero, Spider-Man got bit by the spider. Iron Man got hit again with I think it was the gamma ray or was it the Hulk? One of the heroes, there's always some trauma that births that hero. And so the method was wait to see what happens next. So I knew my life would never be the same again. And so then the next method that I could develop it in the hospital, and it was just whispers really coming in like, well then how do you want your life to be? So I getting through those 10 days, right, especially the last 5 days when they started taking the tubes out, they moved me from ICU. I got to really dream and build and like see myself in the East Coast around snow. I'm a South Side kid, so there wasn't no snow growing up. I got to see myself living an East Coast lifestyle on stages performing in front of thousands of people. I got to see myself doing all the dreams. And to be honest with you, in less than 10 years, I actually ended up living those dreams. And so
Damn. So that's damn. So that's impactful right there, brother, because I'm always like talking to my people about seeing yourself where you want to be. Like, I know because of our struggles and our traumas, we just think about tomorrow. But man, look 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and you saying those circumstances put you in a position mentally where you got to envision what this thing supposed to be. What is it supposed to look like? How do I want to see it? And people don't realize the importance of visualizing what you want.
come on, come
Like
on.
actually talking about it and saying the vision boards. And I know society bombards us with a lot of things, and sometimes you'd be like, but in reality, a lot of that shit work. Like like before you can get
Universal
somewhere,
principles.
you actually have to start seeing it. You actually need to write it down. The power of writing something down
Vision,
and
make
then
it
going
plain.
back to it. Ain't nothing like that, man. But you got to start somewhere. And I don't like that sometimes I see my brothers get to great places out of a tragic moment, but at least you got there. That because really, when you look back, it's just a part of the story. It's a part because, like you
Yeah,
were saying, it's not the story, just a part of this. It's a piece of the story. You know what I mean?
it's a piece of the story, right? It's the climax. It's the part, it's the turnaround part. It's and the other part is like I don't know anybody great that didn't have to go through great fire. I don't know anybody who reached their greatest that did not have to go through great tests. Now, if you were
Mm-hmm.
born that way, that's different. And you're gonna have your own because I believe everybody goes through their fire. It might be different, but everybody's gonna be refined. Now, how you respond to it determines your spirit, your character, and blah, blah, blah. I just chose to, like I said, I chose to look at myself like a hero. Folks can say what it is, but I'm like, yo, I gotta be the champion of this. If not, I'm not here no more. And it gets that black and white for me. It's either I do what the conversation I had with the creator, right? After my mama told me to pray, the conversations that I was having could have been the drugs I already had me on, but the conversations I was having is what I'm still honoring to this day. And it was a lot of deals made like, okay, my family's hurting. I want to help them, right? Like, how can I help them? Then it was like some things, like some visions and flashes and dreams I was having in the hospital that was like, well, then you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do this. And sometimes and there was a lot of it I forgot about until like I would have dreams or I would go into my meditations and I'm like, oh, yeah, I know what I have to do now. Right. And so a lot of like the depression years later in my 20s, the back and forth battles I would have was me having to, I believe it was the creator stopping me, slowing me down, the ancestors stopping me, slowing me down, allowing me to hit different bottoms, different rock bottoms, so I can get still enough to remember, like the deals I'm not remembering. And then, biblically, a lot of folks call it the belly of the beast, right? The belly of the whale, right? You're in the whale. And I believe it's that low place, but your low place doesn't have to be a forever low. It's just designed for you to sit still because we want to move. One other thing I did learn from that ordeal was first and foremost, if I would have, because of where I was hit, and I was always taught something happens, run home. I would have tried to run home, which was 7 blocks away, and I would have ended up bleeding out.
Mm.
And so that be still, that's a big part of like even a lot of my programming that I teach. Like I developed, blessed to say I developed, and humble to say I developed a program and curriculum based on that ordeal that I call the pain to power process, in which I learned how to be still. I learned how to breathe. I learned how to spit, right? Like figuratively and lyrically and all of that, and to get the toxic waste out. And there's many more things, many more discoveries in the hospital. Some things I'm still rediscovering. But then as I remember, then I teach. moving forward. I pass it back to the next generation. It's going to be somebody that goes through some trauma, whether that
Yeah.
trauma, it don't have to be my form of trauma. It can be like literally like abandonment. It could be your parents' divorce, but a lot of the same methods can be applied.
Yep, definitely, and that's powerful, man. Anytime I can witness somebody take the negatives that we go through and channel that into something, because I think when you are listening to the universe, people call it God, people call it the universe, people whatever you want to call it. When you hear things, when you get signs,
Yeah.
because there are signs.
Yeah.
If you're listening, to me, all that means is that you tapped in. Sometimes you can get a sign and ignore it. Like, what? But if you on your path, if you in the right space mentally, you can hear something and it can change your life. So that makes me proud, brother, that you using the instances in your life and you turning that into an empowered moment for others. Because what I was gonna say is when you use it for yourself to empower you and you are pushing through it, you never know what people are going through. You never know how hard all of us who are brave enough to talk to people like this, there's a responsibility because there's a lot of people who feel things, they'll never say them out loud. They'll never express it in a way that's emotionally attached to something. But those of us who understand the power of that, you got to keep doing it. You got to realize that you doing that, you're going to help somebody else. You're going to guide somebody else. You know what I mean? So you said that your pop introduced you to the spoken word at 7. Like, when did you start thinking in your mind, like, I can do this professionally, or I can do this on like a different level?
When Russell Simmons Presents Def Poetry Jam came on TV, and I watched Black Ice, who was actually from the same state that I was from, but I was born in, I should say. Right, he was from Philly though, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But when I saw him spit and his delivered poetry, and it was very much the way that I was rapping, and I was like, oh, hey. And I got re-inspired at 13, and I was like, then I went to school. I went to Jackman Middle School, and I went to the lunchtime cipher that my brother, salute and shout out, Apollo Cuts, was leading the cipher, known for skateboarding, and also he's a dope MC out here. Just moved to from out here, just moved to New York doing this thing. But he was leading the cipher, and I brought I had a poem I wrote that I was spitting like a very, spoken word like style called Poetic Potion, and I brought that to the cipher, and then they ate me up. they trashed everything.
Okay, so you brought your poem to the hip hop cipher.
Yeah, they trashed. This is right after the movie 8 Mile came out, and and my era, we just a little disrespectful. So they like they talked about everything. they trashed it, but what it did do, and maybe that resiliency has been in me, and I give that to a few of the ancestors that's within my lineage, within my bloodline. When I get beat up, and my daddy, I salute him too. When I get beat up, like I've lost a lot of fights. That was how I learned how not to lose so many. And so like getting ate up was what we called it, right? Somebody dismantles you verbally in the cipher, in a rap battle. You then go home. You got a choice. You can either be dismantled and be chewed up food, or you can figure out a way to get your leg, and stand. And so me, I stood in the mirror for hours that day, and I was like, and I'm like trying to understand like this how do you freestyle, because Apollo was coming off the head, or at least I thought he was. And mind you, you got 106 in Park Freestyle Fridays happening, and so I'm like studying. I'm really studying. I downloaded. We had Napster. We had every little downloadable site on our computer that was moving slow, and I was just studying all the freestyle rappers, and I was in the mirror, and I was talking, and I started. And what I started doing was picking myself apart, and I started battling myself. And then and then doing it for so long that I started coming up with some dope lines. And then I just put somebody else in that spot. And so I came the next day to school, and I was like, feeling like DMX, and feeling like feeling like Nas, and feeling like so. And from there, it was like, whoa. It was still like whack, but it wasn't the wackest. It has some
Wait, so
energy.
was you rapping, or was it just because it could be interchangeable when you look at the spoken word artists? If they change the beat they own, it could be a rap too. So was you
So, so,
rapping at
so,
it, or was you
so fun
like in a
fact,
poet?
like I have a hip hop background. I started out rapping and rhyming. That's what my pops did.
I
It
got
was
you.
just that without the beat, like with it slowed down, with it free verse, with you just delivering it in a talking form. Yeah, that's what spoken word is, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no, and so that's another thing that I do teach in my Pain and Power poetry program with my students that are like, is this rap or is this a poem? And then I ask them for do you know what rap stands for? And then they start coming up with all these big words for the R and then a big word for the A. And then we end up breaking it down. It's rhythm and poetry. And so the real difference, of course, context, also um, how I don't want to say how deep, but how you choose to look at your words and how you choose to deliver your lines, right? As far as do I want to use a lot of metaphors and similes, and do I want to think outside the box? Because especially nowadays, a lot of rappers are it can be doing too much to go so deep. But with poetry, right, with spoken word, it's not so much, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, you just break that whole word down? Did you just right? So that will be the difference. And then of course the music, right? Like removing what I always loved about spoken word versus which I can hold my own to a beat when I'm really like, because I go so free verse often and I go acapella often and I remove myself from the restriction of a beat sometimes, it takes me a little bit to get that rhythm back to ride that beat. Like it takes me
Mm-hmm.
like a dance to get back in my groove. But if you put a beat behind me, I can still go. And that's based on years of every day I would come home and put a beat on to block out the bull, the chaos, and all the stuff in the household, the loud screaming and yelling and arguing. And so for me, that was my safe place. Music, spitting, music and then spitting, and then being having my vibe louder than a vibration that was like pushing up against me. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Now, so uh, Coon the Poet LLC. Talk to everybody about um formatting your company, like why create a company out of it, like because it looks like to me, bro, when I look at everything you do and I'm like, okay, this is a profession. Like somebody can be a hip hop artist if you do things the right way. Poetry, that can be your profession. You see what I'm saying? So I'm looking at all the moves you're making and just talk to everybody about your company, the services you guys offer, and
Yeah.
everything like that.
So um being an artist had it doesn't always get respected, right? Like when you like coming out of continuation school, high school, and they would ask me like, what did I want to be and what was my career choice, and they used to like give us a bunch of like colleges, list of colleges, and they would give a list of the classes, and I'm like, yo, I don't see any, I don't see any classes that I'm interested in because I know what I want to be. Like I'm gonna be a spoken word artist. I'm gonna be on Def Poetry Jam on Broadway in New York, but there was no classes that was at that time that was teaching that, right? There was no, I couldn't get a major in spoken word. I would either have to be I can go take a bunch of poetry classes, which is Shakespearean style poetry classes, and then I could take some performing art classes, which is predominantly theater, which I have a theater background. Um, but it was nothing like just like yo, nothing teaching the art of what I know as now the art of the griot, right? The art of storytelling, oral tradition. At that time, at least offered, at least given to me. But and so a lot of what it is that I do nowadays under Coon the Poet LLC, and I did sole proprietorship at this point. Which, so I also have a nonprofit. So I have a for-profit, which is Coon the Poet. So I established Coon the Poet LLC, um, and then and then I have my nonprofit, Where Your Heart Incorporated. Under Coon the Poet is everything that I do on an entertainment level, everything I do utilizing the art form of spoken word, which is also hip hop is incorporated in that, right? Music, all the art forms, art therapy, entertainment, consulting, art therapy. If you want a poet to come to your school, cool, call me. That's Coon the Poet LLC is coming. Um, if you want if you want a consultant to help walk you through some writing workshops, Coon the Poet LLC as well. I I am one of the original poet mentors of an organization that has been doing great things in Sacramento, California since 2010. One of the original poet mentors to help actually lay foundation for the organization known as Sacramento Area Youth Speak. There was a lot of that structure that has groomed and also has laid foundation for what it is that I do. A lot of things that I've also, a lot of intellectual property I also gave over to them, are left with them. But some things that I have revamped and incorporated into my programming. And so under Coon the Poet is Pain and Power Poetry. And so if you want a school assembly, you'll get worded right on. Spoken Word Empowerment Assembly, presented by Coon the Poet. If you want a writing workshop that incorporates healing, because that was the gap with some of the other organizations I worked with, they were asking for us young people to cut ourselves open and to bleed without giving us proper tools to heal afterward. And so some of my comrades who I started in this game with, and some of the young people who was in the earlier years that we brought up, they hit some real heavy brick walls, mental health wise. We hit some big, heavy brick walls. And it was 2012 that I started actually studying mindfulness and meditation, to learn how to still my mind, focus my mind, and also release. I'm an empath, right? Which is why my art form is so quote unquote powerful, because I can take on the feelings of another person and then be able to project that outward. So if you've given me your pain, I can take that and I can tell a great story about your pain, but also feel it in a way to where they typically wouldn't empathize with you. But I was carrying a lot of people, as well as my own pain. And a lot of us as artists, we do that. And then it drives a lot of us crazy. And so I started incorporating, as I started learning tools for healing, those healing tools in my artistry to get it out and to release it, relinquish it from myself, and then also to empower self. So that's all that is what takes place under Coon the Poet LLC, Pain and Power Poetry, Word Up Right On, Spoken Word Empowerment Assembly. Everything that I do, the foundation is empowerment, personal development, healing. Yes, it's healing. It's all those pieces. I could just don't get it twisted. I do like to entertain, but for me, it serves no purpose if you're not leaving with something that's going to sustain you.
That's beautiful, and that's real, man. I see that. Like, I understand that spoken word is a powerful tool, and like any other art form, there are technicalities to it, like how you deliver it, tone that you're using, facial expressions, right? All of this, I mean, all of that matters. And I watch you deliver your stuff, bro, and I can tell you passionate about it. I can tell you mean what you're saying. And I know people personally who know you, who've interacted with you, just going to one of your shows or whatever, and you're making an impact, brother. Like, that's one of the reasons why I have you here, because like we were talking about on the phone, and for people out there who just, and there's nothing wrong with just working a job, taking care of your family, going home, mowing the grass, going on vacations. This is American life. Nothing's wrong with that. But for people who are doing things that are like completely based on intellectual property, completely based on creativity, completely based on I'm taking something from my mind and giving it to people to consume, that can be a lot on you. And all of us want to make money from being creative, but sometimes just knowing someone appreciates your creativity can go a long way. It could have been that day where you was feeling like, you know what, I'm tired of this shit. I've had so many days where I'm like, you know what, not today. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to hook nothing up. I don't want to edit nothing. I don't want to do nothing. And then somebody will reach out to me like, hey man, I just watched something, showed it to my son. It changed his life. I'm like, whoa. All right. So now, like we were talking about signs earlier, you get signs that, okay, I'm on the right path. I just got to keep on going. Like if this is the journey, when I'm gonna get to that destination, I'm not sure, but I have to keep going. I'll be telling my son and young people around me, because this is how I'll be feeling. Like the only thing I can do right now, Chris, to just fuck up everything I'm doing. Any type of business I'm trying to run, I want to continue my podcast to be successful. The only thing I can do right now to fuck all that up is stop. That's the only thing I can do. Other than that, if I keep making small steps, sometimes I get a big step, sometimes it's a little bitty step. But damn it, it's a step. You know what I mean? And I got to keep going in the right direction. So I appreciate you, brother, for coming on the show today, for expressing your story and everything you've been through and what got you to the point that the poems I see you do and like the passion that you exude. I'm happy you was able to come on the show and kind of express where that comes from, brother. So do me a favor and tell everybody where they can reach you. Like, where's your social media handles? How can they connect with you?
So you can always get a hold of me. You have access to me by the way of Instagram, Coon the Poet. Also at Coon the Poet, COONTHEPOET. Everything's spelled correctly because we're big on literacy around here. On IG, I believe the same will get me on YouTube as well. If not, it's something similar. So YouTube / Coon the Poet. If you put it in enough, you'll find me. If you Google Coon the Poet, you will find me. You have access to me by the way of email as well, coonthepoet@gmail. You have access to me by the way of for the longest I've been very personal to where I'm like, yo, hit me. Because as much as I am an artist, I'm also like I'm a real personable. I'm like I'll pull up like I'm a big bro first, right? That's the hint. That's the brother Coon brand that I realize is a brand now. Because when I'm not Coon the Poet, I am always brother Coon because I'm a brother first. Like I got you. I'm pulling up. You need me, little sis? I'm pulling up. And I may not be pulling up with a microphone and a notebook, depending on the situation. That's the other part of the work that I do under Wear Your Heart Incorporated, which is crisis response work, the mentorship, the trauma-informed care stuff, the like pulling up to advocate for, to help translate for. And it's not all pretty work, but the reality is like I used to be at the studio and then I'll get a call from an auntie, from a little cousin or whatever, and we leave in the studio because we need to go pull up because a situation occurred, and that just translated into doing it on a community-based level. Because I realized every problem that we have in the community, it also starts first in our family, right? And so I would not be able to talk on stage about protecting my sisters if I'm not pulling up for real. I can't talk about being my brother's keeper if I'm not really keeping my brother good. If I'm not doing my part to look out, if one of my little bros hit me up and I'm talking to whoever out there who's confused about what it means to be a man of your word or a person of your word or a woman of your word and be your brother's keeper, because it's been a lot in these last few weeks. I'm talking to somebody who might be confused. Help you get your confusion infused with some sense and some balance. Listen, you can't talk about it and not be about it and think that we're gonna be better. If you say it, if you say you care about your people, that means that you have to actually be providing care with your people. If you use the words "I appreciate," that means you actually have to be contributing to value. Appreciate means to go up in value, and so this is. That's how you can reach me through those handles, but you can also reach me and you have access to me by anything I'm posting, right? Tap in, because in this season, I gave y'all 15 years of being very humble. Not that I'm going to stop, but now there's a lot of us that have been out of pocket with how we've been moving in our community. And so I have to come to y'all straight. Hey, man, we are our problem if we're contributing to more harm amongst us. We are the problem. So we're going to have to Wakanda Mountain war this thing out, whether we do it verbally, but we're going to have to get this thing straight. And so that means that now Brother Coon's going to have to, I've been slamming down my hammer a little bit. And nah, this ain't me trying to chastise grown people. And some of them are my elders. But on the real, it's causing our babies too much harm, and then y'all wonder why we have mass shootings in downtown Sacramento or the club or places, or the fact that it starts hitting closer to your Elk Grove home, your Green Haven home, your Antelope home. Listen, it's us. You can't hide the orange trees from at the top of the tree, not pass nothing down and think that tree gonna keep standing. It's not. This generation under me, when I say aftershocks, they aftershock. They not playing. They tremoring and shaking up everything. And so it starts with us doing right by us for real, right? Being your brother's keeper if you say you are a brother. Like, not just using that because it's church lingo or it's lingo of your mosque. Listen, it's time to start living this. So that's why I don't just do spoken word. This is spoken work.
Oh, that's a bar right there.
I put it in the form, but not like that. I just put it differently. But once again, I think sometimes when things are so fluffy on stage, people get it twisted, and they get me twisted. So now I got to go and reiterate during Melanated Convo, like, hold on. When I say let's turn the spoken word into spoken word, people are like, oh yeah, that's so beautiful. No, it's not beautiful. It's ugly. What are you talking about? It's not. It's not easy to be selfless. It's not beautiful. Put my last 16 in and I just, only because it just came to mind just now, but I put my last 16 in my F-150, $16, just to get to the crib real quick on my Cashapp. But there was a brother that had a gas can in his hand. And he was like, look, my car just broke down around the corner. And man, people have been so disrespectful to me. And man, I said, I'm going to see what I can do. I put my last 16. I put 13 in my tank. I said, you can take the rest of the 3 for your gas can, bro. Just get there alive. And he said, bro, you don't make me drop a tear. I said, bro, you don't have to. Just pay it forward when you see somebody that look like us. And the reality is, I'm not saying that to get no applause, no kudos. Yo, there's a lot of shifting that has taken place. And it's a lot of us suffering. It's a lot of, you know how many young people I've been seeing on the corner? And not that there's not people that care, but the reality is right now we have an imbalance of folks who have turned so numb. And because we were told that we were told to be socially distant for 2 years. So we are still treating people like we all have a virus, but we already were looking for an excuse to treat us like that.
Ain't
Listen,
that so?
That's the real. Corona means crown, and I believe it was a virus to the crown, and it's been affecting our mind, and it's affecting how we behaving with each other. And so I just say all that to say, man, listen, if anybody who's listening to the roar of my line, y'all let my line come out just a little bit, just so y'all can understand, like, hey, there's a few of us out here that's not playing about how we treating each other. And it's time that we start holding each other accountable. Well, I'm pulling up. And if I got to pull up to another little girl who got beat in the face by her stepdaddy or whatever, or brother or whoever, I'm not pulling up talking. I'm not making a threat on the air. But we have to start doing things different.
Yep.
What worked in the 80s and the 90s ain't going to work no more. Yeah, we can't. Everything is publicized. Everything's loud. Everything's right in front of our face. And so it's perpetuating more of it. And the problem is, the more it happens, the more we lose. And I just don't want losing for my future grandbaby. I don't know what y'all want, but I want us to win. Generational wealth, generational mental health, generational greatness. That's what we deserve it. We're worthy. No, we're not perfect, but we're worthy of that.
Yep. And I tell people that all the time, my brother. Like we got a lot of work to do. There's of course systematic issues, but we gotta take this personally. Like when I see a young brother get killed in Miami or Houston or any part of the country, that's my brother. He ain't just some name to me. I'm taking it personal. And what you talking about with the gas, well, really it's who the fuck are you? Ain't nobody looking. Stop all the games. Who are you? Ain't nobody looking. Can I listen to a phone call of you talking and I'm like, who the hell is that? That ain't the same person that be doing this X, Y, Z. Now, people aren't perfect. Like, I understand people aren't perfect. But walking the walk is walking the walk. Like, I preach black businesses. I preach uplifting my brothers. I'm preaching all this. But you can look at me and like, I'm going to wear it too. I ain't wearing Gucci or Prada. No shade to companies. But I'm on this black mission, man. And that ain't about this talking thing I'm doing right now. That's like when I click
it's
stop
not.
and I gotta go outside, it's the same dude. See?
You gotta wear. So that's where your heart means essentially, and it means like, and genuinely, I'm currently right now, I am taking a list. I'm writing down a list of those who I truly believe wear their heart, because we're gonna have to start, not for separation purposes, but for accountability and for like knowing where it's safe. Because we're gonna be needing, as things come, we're gonna be needing real safe places. Like, where is it good at? Where can I go and really share with them what's going on with me and them not use it against me? Where can I go to get some food and not feel like I am broken even further by asking you for food? Where can I go to get a hotel voucher or to lay my head? And in the last 2 months, I've been through all of that. And so, as somebody who's been putting in work on behalf of the city and the community for years, like doing stuff, the dirty work that a lot of folks don't want to do. And I'm not the only one. It's a bunch. Super duper shout out to my brothers. Y'all know who y'all are. My sisters, y'all know who y'all are. I ain't about to name drop so folks can start getting their ego and start feeling like, oh, you didn't name me. I don't feel like it right now. I told you, I'm not playing with nobody right now. I'm not doing we're not about to make everything political. Some of this is real personal. Some of this is real personal, because we personally, I'm not gonna say it because I understand the power of words, but we have been losing. But now we gotta win by shifting how we operate with each other. And so, yeah, man, I'm paying attention to who wears their heart, who genuinely says something, but also are vulnerable and courageous enough, right? Courage, strength, compassion, care, to actually walk in. If you say you love Black people, that don't mean you love just the value of them, because that ain't nothing but the oppressor as well. If you say you love Black people, that means that you are placing love inside Black people.
Yep.
Period. If you have to be actively loving on them. Like I said, no, we're not perfect, but are you pausing? Are you being still enough to hear if somebody comes up to you at your car at the gas station? I get it. It's tiring. It's irritating. You don't know what their intentions are. Blah, blah, blah. But do you care enough? If not, it's cool. Like, I respect the ones that's like, nah, I ain't messing with it. I don't care. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. I respect you even more because you're real about what you care about and what you don't care about. But it's the ones who are like, yeah, I just want to help my people. But when you get opportunity and position, you don't. You help yourself. I ain't gonna call you out now, but just know it's coming. It's coming.
Hey, that's how it is. And so the difficult part sometimes is, again, systematic issues are there, but house cleaning, like creating a forum where we say there are certain people in our community doing things in a particular way that's not beneficial. How do we address them? We can't just let it go. How do we address them? Because really, this is our problem, right? Like, I don't have to go to the public and let people outside of the community see the infighting, but like, some conversations need to be had. We need to get stuff in order. And there's nothing wrong with that, bro. Like, holding, because again, I'm one, Chris, who talks a lot about racism, white supremacy. I let they ass have it. But you think I'm gonna see a Black person doing something I don't like and I'm gonna let them just slide? Nah. I'm gonna approach you with love about it. We're gonna have a love conversation. That's how I like to say it. I don't do celebrity gossip and all that, but if I bring up another human's name, it's gonna be a love. It's gonna be the conversation I could have with that person if they right here in my face. Nothing salacious. I'm not doing nothing for a click or a view when it's real shit going on out here. You know what I mean?
And a lot of times it's our brother, sister, loved one, whatever, crying out for help.
Yes.
And that's the way it's like loud enough. I've seen it happen with my own family. I've seen it happen with my pops. Like, man, you just being so loud and messy and sloppy. You wanted somebody to say something. You wanted somebody to offer you a resource. Oh, okay. Right. And sometimes that's what it is when it starts to get so volatile, so loud, it's like a dream, right? When dreams are real, vivid, that's when it's really trying to get your attention. And so when a person is so loud and they're doing, like, okay, you starting to move to the babies now with your sickness. All right, hold up, bro. and there's bruises and there's okay. Now somebody has to sit you down, because the other part is you represent us. And now whenever that person sees another bearded, dark, melanated brother with stature, with size, she's flinching, scared, and that and it perpetuates. It goes on and goes on. So we stop it here by just, hey, what do you need? How can we assist? And then we know. And the other part is like doing the work, or where I get a call, where I might get a call, or a few of us might get a call, and we pull up to a situation. Reality is this: some of us are taught to be defensive and fight anything that tries to that feels like it's going to hurt them. And so, without going so deep into it, I did respond to a call the other night, and brother was upset, irate. Had been drinking a little bit, but he was upset about his baby. And as I got there, everybody else was, I'll just say, from security to cops, was handling it very incorrectly. They were treating it, they were adding to the fire. I can't come matching you. I have to be willing to, and it's that where your heart part. I got to be willing to come at you with love to get a different kind of result. And it was only after, of course, at first he was like, "Nah, get away from me. Who are you? I don't know who you are." But I'm like, "Look, man. Hey, would you like some water? Hey, would you like?" And then like, "Hey, may I touch you on your chest real quick, King?" Like different approach. And then as I was able to touch him, he was able to feel me. Then I was able to speak to him. And then he knew I had his back. And he's like, "He the only one to care about me. Y'all, I'm pepper sprayed. My lip is bloody. Where's my daughters?" He's upset without going into all that. But it was what he said afterward. "Thank you. I probably wouldn't be alive right now if you didn't show up." That's not props to me. That's props to the creator that moves inside me, the love that moved inside of me in that moment, the me being able to see myself. Like, how would I be if I was pepper sprayed, lip busted? Don't know. I would be angry and upset and try. I would feel attacked as well and backed into a corner.
And
So we
it's
got to move
crazy.
on. Yeah, go ahead.
It's crazy, Chris, that we, and I was saying this the other day, we've moved so far away from just the basic premise. Look, if everybody just took the perspective that I'm going to try to help people as much as I can, I'm going to be honest to you, I'm going to try to help you. I'll even go out my way sometimes. But at no moment am I going to mistreat you. At no moment am I going to think I have the liberty, whether I'm a cop, any type of authority figure. How dare you? We live in a society where we have citizens who have jobs. Like a police officer, that's a job, bro. You ain't got the liberty to treat nobody incorrectly. Now, we got to be contextual. If you a cop and you're facing anybody who got a job where they're seeing something all the time, whatever this something is, that can do something to you. You can normalize it. You can lash out. You could be getting a little depressed, whatever that may be. But you got to start recognizing that in yourself. Like a public service position is important. Like that ain't like somebody who work at McDonald's. You showing up with a gun and a badge, and there's a lot that can come with this situation. So you mentioned talking to that brother like that. That's all he needed. Like if cops don't realize that, people who come in our community sometimes don't realize the human aspect is all it's really about. Who gonna take disrespect? If I don't allow you to disrespect me, what does that make me? It actually makes me a strong person. And that actually shows you how much I'm showing you how much I care about myself because I'm not letting you mistreat me.
No, you don't get. I don't care who you are. You don't get to just treat me any old way. And the other part is there's a lot of people that are not of our community that come into whatever police, protect side, whatever you want to call it. We already know what's up. But the reality is they know they don't know it because immediately they're trained from the time they were tadpoles on up that we are beneath them or whatever the case. And where I'm at right now, and I just have to be honest, and I'm okay, and I stand firm in my truth with it. Um, Anybody who comes into our community that does not know how to interact with our community, but called to help, you're not helping, so you just need to stay over there. Stay over there till you learn how to help. And until then, watch out. We got this. And that's genuinely how I feel. And I say that because there's a lot of things politically right now in the city moving, but the reality is anybody who is not trained, taught, don't have it in their heart to know how to help us, you're not helping. So watch out. And we don't need your help. We don't. We got us.
Shout out, like my brother
Without the badge, we got us.
Yeah.
Without your extra resources, we got us. We've been getting us all this time. Grandma didn't have a lot of money when she made it work. Mama didn't. You know what I mean? We got us though. Now we can get us better if we get those resources. If y'all really want to help, y'all got access to them oranges at the top of the tree. Let them oranges come down a little bit. Give us access to those oranges. Don't keep giving us pills and then saying that we got to, and saying you don't know why. You don't know why we're behaving like this, or applauding us for our resiliency, applauding us for living after the knife stabs us in the back. Let's talk about the knife.
Let's talk about that. Everybody want to ignore the knife and say, "Well, pick yourself up by your bootstraps."
Who created the barrel? I ain't trying to preach, but it's just for the longest. I'm like, you know what? I ain't about to get into this political discussions because we already know what time it is. But what I learned is a lot of people genuinely, they know, but they also have lied to themselves so long that they don't know no more.
Yeah.
They don't know. I saw that in the officer's eyes. I said, oh, y'all really don't know that this brother is scared. Y'all genuinely think that your job is to come and make him unscared by grabbing your gun. I said, all right, so I'm going to get my brother up out of here. I'm going to put him in my truck. I'm going to lay him down. I'm going to throw his clothes in. Oh, you'll do that? Yeah, because I'm trying to de-escalate the situation like you're supposed to be doing.
Like you supposed to be doing.
So,
yeah.
I know a lot of folks a little bit of my steam. I got a little fire in me about it.
No. Hey, sometimes that's what you got to do, Chris, to shake. Yeah. Some people been asleep so long, bro. You got to shake them awake. You know what I mean? Everybody don't wake up the same. You know what I mean? So I appreciate everybody. Now go ahead.
Sisters, one of my sisters, shout out to I ain't gonna do it. My sister Aisha Lewis. Oh yeah, I was gonna say Professor Lewis, but she gonna end up cussing me out because she's like, look, I ain't no greater than nobody, blah blah blah. But ADP, a different path, right? It is a clinical agency that helps folks with mental health. I ain't gonna spend too much time because you're like, nah, bro, I'm speaking on the agency. We just do the work, right? But I shout out to my sis because in the last 2 months ago when I went through a situation that I'm not gonna get into over here, but those that follow Coon and Poetic, y'all know what time it is. I just asked y'all come out to the Wear Your Heart Justice concert October 16th. But when the situation occurred, sis was like, she was very still. She took a different approach and she was like, bro, I know, and we got a little running joke in our collective, like everybody's we all different characters of the Avengers, right? Marvel Avengers, right? And she's Nikki Fury. She got a pink eye patch, all right? And but my character was like, I'm Hulk, right? She was like, there is a time where Hulk is not needed, and sometimes it's Bruce Banner that's needed. For those that follow Marvel Avengers, y'all know what's up, right? Or comic books or whatever, Incredible Hulk. Then you know that there was a time period in the movie where the Hulk actually he went from Hulk smash to allowing him and Bruce Banner to be on the same page. And then Hulk is able to have a conversation like Bruce Banner, who was the professor and the doctor of sciences. And so in this season, it's now requiring for myself to, I still got that smash, but the reality is I know that I also have to dial it back and break down some of these principles and some of these things for folks to really get it. And so what you're seeing now is a merging of Coon the Poet and every other identity that lives inside of me, because I realized, like I said a second ago, some folks genuinely, they have blocked their mind, blocked out the stuff, right? They don't like to hear about certain things. They don't like to hear about George Floyd's and Breonna Taylor's and those in situations that keep on happening. They don't want to talk about it. It's too tough for them to talk about. So they blocked it out long enough. They lied to themselves long enough to where in their little world, they don't believe that these things are real. I had a teacher when I was in 10th grade at continuation school, white teacher. We call him Mike. Mike, we had just got harassed by the cops that weekend. Told Mike about it. Mike was like, "Oh, I can't believe that happened because I have some cops in my neighborhood and they're good guys and they don't." And he was just he genuinely was like, "Nah," and I genuinely felt disrespected. Mm-hmm. But I, as a 16-year-old, I'm like, bro, I didn't realize That wasn't his reality.
Yep.
It was mine. It was normal for us. But so because being able to now realize like, yo, some folks really genuinely live a different reality. For real, for real. Even though we can't understand it, it is the blessing of being able to like go to different cities, states, places, and cultures and be open, welcomed into other folks' culture that I'm able to like, oh, okay, y'all really do things different over here. Y'all really don't have the same kind of exposures to trauma that we have. Y'all got your traumas, but y'all don't have the same kind. So now that I'm able to now this is a culture competency thing that we gotta work on. We gotta work on sharing culture with each other. Like, yo, my culture is when I see a squad car, we feel like Craig and Smokey did on Friday when Debo came on the bus. And we've always felt like that, from the babies to the elders, always start sweating. Y'all don't get to do that. Y'all get to be like, oh, hey, that's my uncle's best friend.
Yep.
Or my different.
Completely different experience.
Yeah,
Yep. And these are all, yeah. So I definitely appreciate having you on the show today, bro. I knew we would have a powerful conversation. Everybody, make sure you go to all of Coon the Poet social handles. Make sure you utilize his services. What he's offering is an actual business that adds value to our community, like everything else. So let's get a brother his props. And he's spending his time and energy. Time is the only commodity we cannot get back. So all of us who use our time literally to help others, not looking for nothing to get back, that's really what the world should be about with all of us. You feel me? So I appreciate the brother coming on the show today. Everybody, make sure you go to the new website, Melanated Convo, where you can get the show. You can get the stories we post about news, about history. We gonna continue having these conversations. Follow the brother Coon the Poet on all his social media sites. You know, ask about his services, dig into what he be doing. All that's important. Go ahead.
Can I say one piece? Just one piece.
Yes.
It's not gonna take long. But when you do inquire about my services, can you understand that this is a business, as a brother said? So business does mean there's currency there's a currency exchange, there's a transactional exchange. I get it, y'all. We want the plug. We come from plug like we good. Oh, I know a homie that does this. Hey, stop. After 15 years of free services for a lot of y'all, I'm not, nor am I condoning any of my youngsters who do similar work that I do, any of the homies who do similar work. We're not condoning folks getting over, right? Calling us, using the number on the business card to then ask us to give an in-kind service, right? And I just learned what that word meant the other day. I genuinely just thought, honorarium for sure, bro. Whatever you want to, give to the cause. But I'll be in your class, and then he like went into deeper details in the text message later, like, well, simply meaning, can you give me a free service? You don't have anything to pay you. And I'm like, listen, man, just like you get paid to go to work, this is my job.
Yep.
This is how I eat. And I say that to anybody who's reaching out. So whether it's my one-on-one power sessions, right, that I provide from young men from 7 to 17, age 7 to 17, everything has a price and a rate to it. Be respectful. I prefer that when you reach out and say, hey, what's your rate? Or hey, this is what I have to offer. This is my budget. And we can work with you within that. But don't call me this school year. Don't call me for your after school program. Don't call me to come and do a guest appearance for I don't care if it's 2 minutes, because it costs something. It's costing gas. Only call me if you have something to offer, and we can work with you from there. Whether it's a donation, I'm okay with that. But understand that everything costs. So please respect the value of what it is that I do under Coon the Poet, or under the nonprofit Where Your Heart Incorporated. If you're not willing to donate or fund, if you're not willing to part with anything of yours, please wait till you are ready. Go get you an investor. Go get you something, and then come talk to me later. Because you would not do that to your plumber. You would, just because you knew him or grew up with him or he's from the neighborhood.
Yep.
You might give him. He might give you a discount, but he's not going to just come and just unplug your toilet with a snake for free, constantly, just because he knows you. So please respect the artists the same kind of way, poets especially the same kind of way, and service providers and those that are helping sustain our community.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna say nothing else.
No, that's 100 because business mean business, and that's the audacity, right? I give you a business card, you call the number, and you don't want to talk business. How about that, right? So in our community, we gonna keep the brother. We gonna get out of here, man. But I understand the frustration, though. I completely understand the frustration. Our people, we put value on shit that our value system is a little rigid at times. So
Jay-Z
we need to check our
coming in the
values.
second. Yeah. Respect your people, man.
Respect your people, man. So this has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. Your brother Harrison Coon, the poet. We out of here.